The setting sun bathed Brimstone in a blood-red glow as if warning of the storm to come. The town, once a haven for travelers and traders, had grown quiet in recent years, its streets mostly empty, save for a few weary souls. Brimstone had always been a place of quiet resolve, but the peace was now shattered by a looming threat. Sam Mitchell, otherwise known as Snake, and his gang were coming, and everyone knew what that meant. Destruction, bloodshed, and no mercy. Sheriff Tom Granger stood at the edge of the town, his face a mask of grim determination. His once steely eyes now reflected the fatigue of years spent keeping the peace. He could feel the weight of every scar, every bullet wound, and the ache of years in his bones. But it wasn't just age that burdened him. It was a growing sense that he wasn't enough anymore. Not for this fight. Tom watched the sun dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the dusty street. Inside the saloon, the town's remaining residents huddled together, voices low, casting fearful glances toward the doors as if they could hear the distant hoofbeats already. They looked to Tom as their last hope, but he could see their doubt. He wasn't the man he used to be. "I know you're scared," Tom said to the gathering, his voice steady but tired, "but I'm not gonna let this town fall, not while I'm still breathing." The room fell into a heavy silence. Tom left them to their fear, patrolling the streets that had once echoed with laughter, but now felt haunted. His steps brought him to a small cemetery at the edge of the town, where his wife lay buried. Her grave was a silent reminder of the promise he made to protect Brimstone and to give her peace even in death. As the stars began to shine overhead, Tom's resolve hardened. No matter what happened tomorrow, he would not let the town she had loved fall, even if it meant standing alone. Dawn broke over Brimstone, casting an eerie stillness. Tom received the news that he had been dreading. Snake's gang was on the way, riding hard, leaving a wake of burning farms and plundered towns behind them. The town buzzed with panic as a grim reality sank in. The people scrambled to pack their belongings, some thinking of fleeing into the desert in hopes of outrunning the chaos. Tom stood in the center of town, watching the fear take hold. He had enough of this. He gathered the townsfolk, his voice rising above the chaos. "Listen up. Running won't save you. They'll hunt you down, and there will be no one left to defend what's ours. If we stand together, we have a chance." The crowd was quiet, their faith wavering, but Tom's words stirred something deep within them. Most were farmers and merchants, not fighters, but this was their home. They began boarding up windows, gathering what weapons they had, and reinforcing their barricades. But Tom knew it wasn't enough. These were not hardened gunmen. They were scared people clinging to whatever hope they could muster. Later that day, Tom stood with Billy Coleman, his young deputy, handing out rifles to the few willing to fight. Billy's hands trembled as he accepted the weapon. "Sheriff, I ain't ready for this," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Tom gave him a reassuring pat on the shoulder, though he wasn't sure of anything anymore. "None of us are, Billy, but we do what we have to do." As the sun began to set, Tom saw it, a thick cloud of dust rising on the horizon, growing larger, closer. Snake's gang was coming. Tom stood alone in the middle of the street, his rifle in hand. The town behind him held its collective breath, watching through cracks and boarded up windows. This wasn't just a fight, it was their last stand, and Tom knew how it would end. The sound of horses thundering toward Brimstone echoed in Tom's ears as the gang rode in like a storm, their figures dark and menacing against the dying light. Snake Mitchell, draped in a long black coat that glowed like death's shadow, led the charge with a twisted smile on his face. His eyes locked on Tom, standing alone in the center of the street. "Whoa, Sheriff Granger," Snake called out, his voice dripping with mockery. "Seems you've come to welcome us personally. How noble." Tom didn't flinch, his grip tightened on his rifle, his eyes steely despite the exhaustion pulling at his bones. "You're not taking this town, Snake. Not today." Snake laughed, a cruel sound that echoed through the streets. His men joined in, their voices filled with the promise of violence. "You think one old man can stop us? You could have stepped aside, Sheriff. You could have saved yourself a world of hurt." Tom's gaze flickered to the windows, where he could see the frightened eyes of the townspeople. His heart pounded, but his mind was clear. He wasn't fighting for himself. He was fighting for them, for the life they had built, for the memory of his wife, for Brimstone. "I won't step aside," Tom said, his voice steady. Snake's grin vanished, his hand moved towards his gun. The first shot rang out, splitting the silence like thunder. Tom moved with the speed of a man who had done this all his life, dropping two of Snake's men before they even cleared their holsters. But age had taken its toll. A searing pain tore through his side as a bullet found its mark. Despite the pain, Tom fought on, his shots precise, but his strength was fading fast. One by one, the gang members fell, their blood staining the dirt. Soon only Snake and Tom remained, their eyes locked in a final deadly stare. Tom's vision blurred, his body weak, but he raised his rifle one last time. The final shot echoed, and Snake crumbled to the ground. As Tom collapsed, the townspeople rushed out, their faces filled with gratitude and sorrow. He had given everything to protect them, knowing he had kept his promise.